Arav and Mira met on a rainy afternoon, both seeking shelter under the awning of a small bookstore. She was flipping through a poetry book, and he, curious and restless, struck up a conversation. "Do you believe in fate?" he had asked, shaking the raindrops from his jacket. Mira had laughed. "I believe in good books and bad coffee. Fate, not so much." Arav had grinned. "Then let me prove you wrong." And somehow he did. From that day forward, their lives intertwined like the pages of a well-worn novel. Late-night phone calls, endless walks along the river, stolen kisses between hurried workdays. Arav, the dreamer, believed in magic. Mira, the realist, kept him grounded. They were opposites in every way, yet somehow they fit together like a melody and its lyrics. And then one evening, under a sky full of stars, Arav held her close and whispered, "Promise me, no matter what happens, we won't leave each other behind." Mira smiled, pressing her forehead against his. "I promise." A love that time couldn't hold. Months passed, and their love grew deeper, but so did the weight of reality. Mira's father fell sick, and she became the backbone of her family, putting aside her dreams to care for him. Arav, on the other hand, received an opportunity of a lifetime, a scholarship to study in London. "I won't go," he said one night, his fingers interlaced with hers. "Not if it means leaving you behind." Mira shook her head. "You have to. This is your dream, Arav. You can't throw it away for me." "I don't care about dreams if you're not in them," he argued. She cupped his face gently, memorizing every line, every curve. "You once told me you'd prove fate was real," she whispered. "So prove it. Go, and if we're meant to be, we'll find our way back." Arav hesitated, but in the end, he listened. The letters that never came. For the first few months, they wrote to each other constantly. Long emails filled with love and longing, promises of forever. Then, slowly, the messages became fewer. Life got in the way. Time zones, responsibilities, the quiet realization that distance was no longer just measured in miles. And one day, the letters stopped completely. Mira still typed out messages sometimes, but she never hit send. She convinced herself that Arav had moved on, that love wasn't strong enough to fight against reality. She was wrong. Because one evening, 2 years later, her phone lit up with a message she never expected. "Arav, I'm coming back." Too late for forever. Mira's heart pounded as she rushed to the airport. Was this it? Had fate finally brought them back together? But when she got there, she didn't find the Arav she once knew. The boy with endless dreams was now a man weighed down by time. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She smiled, but there was an ache in her chest. "Of course I did." They walked in silence for a while before Arav finally spoke. "I thought of you every single day," he admitted. "I wanted to come back sooner, but—" Mira shook her head. "I understand." And she did. Because she had spent years trying to silence the ache in her own heart, convincing herself that if they were truly meant to be, time wouldn't matter. But now, standing in front of him, she realized something painful. Sometimes love isn't enough. "Are we too late?" he asked, his voice breaking. Mira looked up at him, the man she had loved with every piece of her soul, and she knew the answer. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "I think we always were." Arav swallowed hard, nodding. He reached for her hand, giving it one last lingering squeeze before slowly letting go. And just like that, a love that had once felt unbreakable faded into the past, a beautiful story that was never meant to have an ending.